Hello and welcome back to the Double Down podcast presented by KFan and WaterWave. We are back here in the KFan studios in St. Louis Park. Today is Thursday, October 17th, and we are joined by a very special guest. Before we get into his intro, just wanted to give a shout out to everybody that listened to season 2, episode 1. We appreciate all the love and support. Obviously, that was just an audio version. Today we have the video version here as well. We're going to keep improving all that kind of stuff. As you guys know, we're in a different location here. If you've watched the videos in the past, we are now in the KFan studios versus the WaterWave studios. But it's more of the same, and we're super excited to be here on the mic talking to somebody that I'm a huge fan of. Obviously, today's guest is someone that has truly seen it all in the basketball world. Hailing from right here in Minnesota, Anthony Tucker has had an impressive career spanning from both college to the professional level. After naming himself at the University of Iowa, later Winona State, and Moorehead, Anthony took his talents overseas, playing professionally in places like Belgium, Turkey, Taiwan. We'll get into all of that fun stuff. But along the way, he faced his fair share of hurdles, challenges, but his resilience and mental toughness has brought him to all the beautiful things that he's done in this game. Now, Tuck is back home in Minnesota running his own basketball training services called Hoop Habits, located in Edina. We'll get into that as well. But just a generational talent. Super excited to have on the show. So welcome to the show, Tuck. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, something light, right? Yeah. Hit a couple of the places. Yeah. You've been in enough places. We'll get into all that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, we probably got a couple more, right? But no, I want to start early. Obviously, growing up, Minnetonka, you came on the scene extremely hot. One of the things I kind of saw when I was researching you was you were the only player in your conference history to be named unanimous selection to the all-conference team as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, which is pretty absurd. I was texting Jamison Battle about that. Like, did you know that? He goes, no, but it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all. But starting there, man, when did you kind of know? When did you find that love and that passion for hoops? Was that something that you had at an early age, or was that something that kind of took more of a time for yourself?
I was one of those kids growing up that like I played whatever sport was in season.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it was probably seventh grade. Actually, seventh grade was the first year that I was like made aware that there was AAU basketball.
Yeah.
There was like basketball I could play in the summer. To me, summer was always baseball time. Fall was football. Winter was basketball, and then you kind of repeat the cycle. So, seventh grade was my first real taste of like high level AAU, and once I played, I was like, I want to do this all year. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to play baseball and miss basketball anymore. So I would say it was like seventh grade was when I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I think kind of the similar deal for that. Probably a little bit earlier, just because I'm younger and you had that kind of experience at a younger age. But no, same way. Obviously, growing up for me too was soccer, football, baseball, that fun stuff. And then it's like once basketball is there, it's like, yeah, this is the best. Obviously, you go on to have a really great high school career, and that started early, like we mentioned. Obviously, being named first team all conference and stuff as a freshman and sophomore. Is that something you kind of you knew was going to happen for yourself going into high school, or was that kind of like not a surprise, but was it like oh shoot, like I'm pretty good, or was that something where it was like, who knows, I'm going into high school here, I'm playing at a big school? Like, what was kind of your thought process going into high school basketball?
I mean, it was wild. I transferred to Minnetonka 2 days before the school year started.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Burnsville before?
I was Apple Valley.
Apple Valley, okay.
Yep. So Apple Valley kid growing up. Decided super last minute to go to Minnetonka. Some of my AAU teammates, one of them, Andy Burns, was transferring there.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, CJ Erickson, was already there.
Mm.
And so, we talked about it. We were actually down at AAU Nationals down in Florida and kind of talking about it. And it just kind of became serious and a real thing. So, 2 days before, I think my first time in the actual school was the night before classes started freshman year. So, it was kind of decided to go there. And then, all through the fall and like open gyms and all the preseason stuff we did, I had no idea if I was going to be on JV, varsity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't an impressive athlete as a 14, 15-year-old. I think I was like 6 foot and I probably weighed 140 pounds. Like,
yeah.
I wasn't physically, there. So, it was kind of a shock to me. to hear that I was starting game one as a freshman, and um, yeah, it just kind of took off from there. Like you build more confidence as you play
Mm-hmm.
more, and you start to see that, like, as an eighth and ninth grader, you look at varsity basketball. Maybe not so much anymore because there's
Yeah.
more freshmen playing right away and stuff. But back then, it was like you looked at the juniors and seniors as almost like, yeah, you kind of idolize them.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you kind of look at those guys, you play against them in open gym, and you're not overly aggressive and stuff. So it was just like I built more confidence as we got the season going, and it was kind of a snowball effect of becoming more confident, but also getting more opportunity and kind of gaining the trust of my teammates and the older guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were great. They helped me out, but I mean, I would say midway through that my freshman year is when I started to feel like I was as good or better than most anybody on the court. So
Yeah, and I think with that being said, obviously you had a really great freshman year, high school transition into your sophomore year, your second team All State selection as a sophomore. That transitions into a junior year that continues to snowball. Obviously, you were first team All State by Pioneer Press as a junior and a senior. When did that obviously you knew you were good, but when did that true recruiting come in for you? Because for me, it was like, oh, I had sophomore year, I had some some of those fake like NAIA and D2 and D3 stuff. But when did that true recruiting process really start for you?
so I don't have the underdog story
Yeah.
where kids are like, oh, I was super under recruited. Like there used to be the deadline where it was like whatever day, middle of the summer, sophomore year, you could get your first
Mm,
call. I got like 5 offers day
yeah.
one, and I mean they were all mid-major offers. It was like your UW Milwaukee's
Yep.
and Central Michigan's
Hmm.
and stuff. But I mean, as soon as like I think it was like 11 a.m. they could start calling. I
Yeah.
got 5 offers within the first hour,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
so my recruiting was pretty traditional. Like it was, I had the mid-major offers, and then I had like the high major calls, and they were like, "We want to see more of you." And then I
Yeah.
got one, and then I got three, and then five, and then it was just kind of a traditional scenario. I always laugh because people tell the story of like, "Oh, I was super under recruited,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Yeah, that wasn't really my
Yeah. Had
wasn't
it
my
right away.
experience.
Yeah. No doubt.
Like
No
it
doubt.
just wasn't."
Well, when you kind of started getting those mid majors, obviously you're grateful and that's cool. But I
Yeah.
knew you probably knew in the back of your head like I want to go to a higher level than this. Is that something you kind of felt or?
It was so weird for me because I knew I was going to play in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
Like it didn't
really.
really. I there was never really like I'm looking elsewhere or whatever. Like I really wanted to go to Indiana.
Mm.
My whole dad's side of the family's from Indiana, so
Well,
kind of growing up, I kind of wanted to go there because I spent my summers there and stuff. And so I was just like, yeah, like I want to play in Indiana. Then it was, I want to play at Minnesota. Then it
mhm.
was, well, I just want to play at Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, or Indiana, like
Yeah,
one of those
one
four.
of those four. Yeah.
So it was just kind of like I knew I was gonna be somewhere between those four
Hmm.
schools, and it was kind of my outlook the whole time was like it's gonna be one of those four.
Yeah, and obviously I mentioned Iowa, and we'll get into that. Before we do, just wanted to highlight kind of wrapping up, your senior year. You scored 27 points state championship game, which included a 20-point second half as your team rallied from 22 down. Do you still have memories of that game? Anything specific that pops up? Obviously, winning a state championship is, you're going to have that memory for the rest of your life. But there's anything that kind of sticks out to you about that one?
Um, I would say probably the thing that sticks out the most to me in my mind was warm ups.
Mm,
Just kind of being like in the moment and thinking like there's no chance we lose this game.
yeah,
Like we've come this far, and it's kind of our time to win and
yeah.
stuff. And I remember kind of like messing around in warm ups, and I remember Chris Carr coming down to like the court level at
Oh yeah.
Target Center and telling me to stop. Like he was like, I can't repeat what he said, obviously, but so that's something that always stuck out to me because I started the game so poorly,
Mm,
and so now that's kind of been like something I've looked back on always. It's like I take warm ups seriously all the time now
yeah,
because I'm like, it does it does
yeah,
matter
for
and it
sure.
does contribute to how you start the game. So I was so bad in the first half that even like people being like, "Oh, you were killing in the second half." I'm like, "Yeah, I couldn't have got much worse than I was in the first half." So, yeah, that's a game I'll remember for the rest of my life. Just
Yeah, obviously a huge one. Target Center,
yeah,
you're still back in that time.
yeah.
You go on your school's career leading scorer. I don't know if that's Is that still
Yeah.
at 1900?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1908 points. You set a school record for a 3-point percentage at 44.6% as a senior, averaging 22 a game, along with 6 rebounds, 8 assists, and a 7.8 to 2.8 assist turnover ratio. Obviously, next level there. Obviously, for the people that have watched you and know your game, I think, and I'll say one of the best shooter I've ever witnessed. Is that something you always kind of hung your hat on? Obviously, you talked about freshman year not being that athlete, that strong, rim attack guy. So you probably were chilling around the 3-point line. Is that kind of something you always felt confident in your game?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been able to do everything. I think
Yeah.
freshman year, like you figure out, like, hey, I get more points if I shoot it from out here, and it's a little easier.
For sure.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's something I've always been able to do. It's something I've always worked at doing. So yeah, I mean, I would say it's something that I would attribute to how, like I talked about, how much I played sports, and I constantly was playing basketball, constantly had a ball in my hand, was always shooting and stuff. So when people ask like, what should I do to become a better shooter? I'm like, it's really reps. Like
Yeah,
it's
for
it's
sure.
just the amount of time that you put into it. There's no secret sauce to being a great shooter.
Yeah, you just got to do it
Yeah,
over
right.
and over again. And
Uh-huh.
obviously, I've been in the gym with you enough, and throughout the years, and I've seen that. And I think for people that are listening, that are like, how do I become a better shooter? What's the secret recipe? Well, there isn't. You got to shoot the
You
ball.
gotta,
We
gotta
got to go to
sh-
hoop habits and shoot the
you
ball.
gotta shoot it. You gotta shoot it a lot.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, you wrap up your senior year, and ultimately you decide to take yourself down to Iowa City, Iowa. What kind of went through that process? Obviously, you talked about those big four there: Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Indiana. You pick Iowa. How did that process kind of go for you?
Um, I really liked Iowa when I
Mm-hmm.
visited. I think anybody that's been there,
Yeah, sweet.
yeah, like it's a cool place,
Mm-hmm.
and the opportunity to play right away was there. Coach Licklider was National Coach of the year before, getting the Iowa job when he was in Butler or at Butler in
Yeah,
Indianapolis. So, um, playing for a highly touted coach and being able to play right away and proximity to home and stuff, it was just kind of one of those things where you sit down, you make a pros and cons list, and it was like one had more pros than the other, and that was to me it was kind of an easy decision, and
yeah.
I made it pretty early because I was so confident in it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, I think I think it's one of those deals too where it's like for any kids that are going through it right now, it's kind of that thing where you kind of know,
yeah,
and it's not like you can't really say what it is always. And for me, it was kind of the same way when it was, transferring back to Minnesota. I kind of knew it was where I needed to be,
yeah.
and it made sense. And obviously, being a Minnesota kid, that played that kind of factor into it. But for yourself, you choose Iowa. You go to Iowa City. Like you said, you not only had the chance to play, but also start in several games, scoring double figures in 8 of those. You had a lot of success, especially early. Big point game over Bryant. Career high rebound over Southeast Missouri State. Some big games early. How did that just give you confidence as a player, being able to come in early, come into the Big Ten, where everybody says it's the strongest, most physical, demanding league, and just like find success early on? Or was that obviously it shows that on paper, but was that really the case for yourself?
Not at all. It
Yeah.
was very similar to high school. Like I
Yeah.
got there and I was um, the guys, the sophomore class, so the class above me. Um, 3 of those guys had started as freshmen, so I
Wow.
kind of going in, I was like, I'm probably going to be the seventh, eighth man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know, just the way it worked out. Like I ended up starting game one,
Wow.
and I started our first exhibition game, and I had 20 some points in it, and I think I hit 7 or 8 threes.
Wow.
And so, like, once you do that as a freshman,
Yeah.
I mean, the buzz kind of starts, especially somewhere like Iowa where they're so crazy about
Yeah.
the Hawkeyes. And so, you come in an exhibition game and do that, and it kind of goes from there. So, but yeah, very similar situation to me being, I didn't walk in there guaranteed a starting spot
Mm-hmm.
from day one.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit and say like, oh, I came in and earned it. Like I came in and played well enough to get the opportunity, and then didn't really give it back.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, for people that watch you, they know that shooting is a special part of your game. You do it at an elite level better than most people in the world, obviously. But I think your ability to kind of see the floor and your passing is something that really separates you. Is that something you kind of wanted to highlight as you came in as a young guy? Obviously, it's a little tougher to get your shot off. You might not have as many open looks. Defenders are more athletic, more in your face, but you can still pass the ball. Is that something you kind of leaned on a little bit?
A little bit. I would just say it was something that, again, something I've always been able to do. It's
Yeah.
not something I did a ton of in, I would say, freshman year at Iowa. I was a heavy catch and shoot guy until people stopped letting me catch and shoot. But
Give yourself some credit, man. You got a 9 assist game against Bowling Green. You had a couple big assist game in there as well.
But I mean, it was it wasn't something that I would tell someone that I was elite at, and so it was something I definitely had to work on, and I got better at, and I had a really really good assistant coach, and a really good relationship with LaVal Jordan, and he worked with me a ton. Kind of the behind the scenes work where you're in early, staying after games, the stuff that people don't see and stuff. But he really helped me just kind of see the game differently than I was at the time, and so I credit a lot of that to him, just with how much he worked with me on it.
Yeah, and I think people don't understand how much of a change it is, regardless of what level you're playing at high school. I think, now it's these fads these days with the OTE and, these big high school, you got like Sunrise Christian, you got like all these huge schools. I can hit on a lot of them. And obviously there's these elite guys like the AJ DeBansas and, the Ace Baileys and those kind of guys that the transition won't be too tough, but there's still a lot of guys that that transition's tough. And obviously, you said you had a assistant coach to rely on. I think for me it was kind of the same way. I had Sundance Wicks, who's now the head coach at Wyoming, and he was kind of my guy that I was able to go to. And I wanted to expand my game and become more of a a 3-point shooter, or at least be able to play in the mid range, because I knew I could slash, I knew I could score at the rim. But I was like, okay, what's the next level I could take my game? I wanted to be a pro, and so Sundance kind of took me under his wing when it came to that. Obviously, for you, it wasn't going to be your form shooting. You had that kind of figured out. What was the biggest adjustment for you that you wanted to make? Obviously, you knew that, hey, I want to make this short term for Iowa and have the Hawkeyes be good, but I want to be a pro for a long time. What was kind of the biggest step in your game that you evaluated that you needed to take?
Playing through physicality. Like, I was such a finesse guy and stuff, and I think anybody that's seen me now versus, I mean, maybe back in high school, I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I kind of welcome contact now, and so that was the main thing for me. Was I was very soft. I could do a lot with the ball, but once someone put a forearm on my hip, I mean, they could pretty much dictate where I was going. So that was one thing I had to get better at right away. And that's probably the hardest thing. Like, it's hard to come in and lift weights and change your body and welcome physicality. And so that was the biggest adjustment for me, for sure.
Do you think that was a physical thing for you, or do you think it was more just like a mental side of like knowing it?
I think it's both, because I think if you're not physically strong, you don't want contact. And so I wasn't physically strong. When I got to school, I was 175 pounds. And so, again, if something's hard for you, you tend not to do it that much. And so for me, it was, and you get someone that's 210 kind of putting a forearm on you. You're trying to get away from that forearm. And so, and a lot of times that takes you away from the basket or away from the spot you're trying to get to. So, for me, that was definitely the biggest thing when I got there. Was like, everyone was like, yeah, we know you can shoot it, we know you can dribble it, we know you can do this, but like, if someone's trying to beat you to a spot, are you going to let them beat you there?
No, that's true.
And so once I started to figure that part out, and kind of, I would say it took me a long time to welcome that, but once I started to figure out, like, hey, it's going to be me or him getting to that spot, and that was kind of the turning point for me, I would say.
Yeah, and obviously we talked earlier about how you want to do it for yourself right now in the moment, Iowa, all that great stuff, but you probably knew at that point you wanted to be a pro. Was it early in your college career you wanted to be a pro? Was it high school? When did you kind of know that, like, I love this thing, I want to do it for a long time?
I would say it was probably around that 7th, 8th grade time, where I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I think I would say 9th grade is when I really started to kind of angle that way, like where I was like, I'm going to do stuff that's conducive to helping me get to where I want to get to.
Yeah.
That's when I'd say like heavy reps started. Like I was putting in extra work all the time. But yeah, it was always something I wanted to do. There was never like oh, I'm kind of good at this. This maybe is something. It was just something I wanted. So
Yeah.
for me, I was always kind of working towards that.
Yeah, and obviously, you go to Iowa, a place that, you feel confident that's going to allow you to do that.
Yeah.
I think, people know that the Hawkeyes have, storied tradition. Obviously, they've, they're always playing in the tournament, same to this day with, Coach McCaffrey. It's always a team that's, right there and competitive in March and into April. And obviously, your career is different. It's kind of non-traditional in terms of the way that, especially back in your time in the early 2010s, and you saw guys go into college for 3-4 years at the same school, and nowadays it has shifted to the NIL market and going to different places. But obviously you only stayed at Iowa for 2 years. You averaged 10.4 points, shooting almost 47% from the 3-point range. Kind of just talk about that switch leaving Iowa and then what Winona first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then into Moorehead, and kind of just what that kind of did to set up for your pro career.
Yeah, it was tough. Obviously, I mean, for people that don't know my story, I got in trouble freshman and sophomore year, pretty close to a year apart, like a year
Wow.
to the day
Yeah.
apart. I got 2 underage drinking tickets, um, which were just a byproduct of just being irresponsible and immature.
Young college guy.
Yeah, and just enjoying kind of the attention I was getting and going out a lot and stuff, and so. Um, yeah, I mean, I got in trouble the first time and missed a lot of time. And then the second time I got in trouble, I got suspended for I don't even know. I want to say I got suspended for like 10 games or something.
Wow.
And
Jeez.
so coming back, I just never really worked back from that. Coming back, like I don't think I had the trust of coaches and teammates and stuff, and rightfully so. And ultimately, it was just kind of like again, being young, immature, was kind of just like I got to get out of here. Like I've overstayed my welcome.
Yeah,
here.
almost kind of felt like that.
And started to kind of feel like like I was being judged unfairly and stuff. Which looking back on it, if someone makes a mistake over and over again, you're going to start to think that's who you are.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, at the time, so I was like, I'm getting out of here, and entered the transfer portal, which was way different.
Yeah, what was that these days?
Yeah, way different back then. Back then, it was like you had to get a release, and then you basically just opened up the recruiting process all over again. But it was very different back then because you couldn't transfer within the conference.
Yeah.
So, I don't even know what the exact rule is, but it didn't happen.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So, because I think your school had to essentially grant you a release to go to another school.
Yeah, just completely different.
Yeah, so they wouldn't, like Iowa's not letting you go to Minnesota.
Yeah, for sure.
So
why would they let this 47% 3-point shooter go play against them?
Right. So went through the recruiting process, and ultimately, having been suspended 2 different times for extensive time, like my big thing was like, I just want to play.
Yeah.
I want to play. And so I had other high major offers to transfer to big schools and play, but it all came with you got to sit out a year.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just sat half a year, and the year before I sat
forget about it
for a lot of time. And ultimately I was like, you know what, if I go Division II, I don't have to sit, and I can play right away. And Winona at the time had won 2 out of 3 national championships, and I mean the way they lost the potential three-peat was, I think they were up 11 or something with 30 seconds left, and lost the game.
Shout out Zach Malvick there.
Yeah, right. So I was looking at it like, this is my best option to not sit, but to go be on a good team. And ultimately made that decision, and it is one that I can say I will regret for the rest of my life.
Wow.
It was not for me.
Yeah.
And not for anybody's. I would never discredit a university or a level of play or anything. It was just such a culture shock for me, going from where I was to there, and I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready for it mentally. I think coming off of the adversity I'd just been through for the last 2 years, like I think I needed to walk into something where there was a little bit more like structure. I think I needed someone to be there and kind of be harder on me instead of walking into a situation where everyone's looking at you like you're gonna
like you're God sent
yeah
here.
like you're gonna average 50 points a game. I mean, like literally people on campus would.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, you're walking and you see people like start whispering and like part the way. Like it was just weird all the time, and it was not the right decision for me. But it was the one I made, and it's something that I don't really even talk about that much. Like it just never really comes up.
Like because the Winona thing really doesn't even come up ever. Like you don't. I don't consider like I don't even think Winona when I think. And I'm a guy that played in that league too. You know, so it's like
I was there for one season, literally. Like I mean, I was there for the basketball season. I left school after. Like I went home. It doesn't really seem like part of my story, but it's there. And it's also weird because Coach Walthall, who was at Moorehead State, he was our head assistant at Iowa.
Oh, really?
And
wow.
So so our coaching staff got fired, actually right after I transferred, and Walt got the job at Moorehead, but it was like 3 days after I signed at Winona. Otherwise, I mean, I would have gone there. For sure, 100%. And so, that was weird too because I was at Winona, but the whole time Walt's up in Moorehead, and like we played them twice, and it was like I'm looking at them like I wish I should have done that
conference game. It's like
So that contributed a lot to my time at Winona too. Was just kind of being like, just feeling like I mistimed it and stuff. So it was a tough stretch for me. For sure.
You use the word adversity there, and obviously, my podcast kind of, wants to highlight on those kind of moments. And obviously, we all go through them as athletes, whether that's, your story, whether that's for me, I had the injuries, and we'll get into that kind of aspect of your career a little bit later on. But what did that kind of adversity, whether that was, having to leave Iowa or Winona, how did you get through that, and how did that eventually set you up for, a successful Moorhead season / career, whatever you want to call it, and then obviously into your, extravagant, overseas career? What kind of adversity did you, I don't know, what did you use to kind of get through that? Like, how did you kind of recenter yourself? Obviously, you said like you needed more structure and you needed this and that, like, but ultimately it comes down to yourself. I think that's something you got to decide, for yourself as well. Like, how were you able to kind of get through that, and what did you kind of lean on in terms of that?
I think the main thing is you have something taken away from you. Like it's
that you love.
Yeah. So, I mean, not being able to play at Iowa, you get it taken away, which forced me to make kind of a hasty decision to be like, oh, I want it back. I'm going to go play right away. Same thing where it's like, you get to a place where you're not happy doing what you love, and that's always a really tough place to be.
Scary.
And so again, I would even attribute that to like not having it, because it's not the thing that you love, and it's not the way you remember something or you see it. So that year at Winona, I think I was I don't think it was me, and I think that was the hardest part. And so, I mean, it didn't take me long to be like, I'm not doing this for that long. And so, so I mean, getting out of there, like I was like, I got to get out of here. And so, like I said, I left after school. By the grace of God, was able to remain eligible. Like somehow did enough work to go home for the last month and a half or whatever, and still, have a GPA that allowed me to play.
I think Eric Curry was the same way, like went to Scottsdale for like a month before he decided to come back.
I was like, I don't know how I'm doing this, but I was out of there. I didn't go back. I took all my stuff. Like,
didn't open a textbook, didn't open a lab.
No. So, but yeah, I mean, so then ultimately I end up at Moorhead, and I end up sitting. Like I end up having a redshirt because I transferred D2 to D2 within the conference, and they were like, I mean, I knew it.
Did you know that? Did you know you would?
Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, the alternative was drop down Division 3. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna transfer to Moorhead, and I'm gonna redshirt, and that was the best decision I ever made. Taking a year to work on my body, to work mentally because I was so put off by just my career at that point.
Exhausted.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
everything was. And so um, I had another assistant coach that like really, really helped me just kind of get back on track. And Josh Vaughn was,
My guy.
yeah, he was, I mean, every morning we were up at 6 working out. We played one on one every day. When I didn't have class, I was in his office.
Yeah.
He was a GA, but he was constantly cutting fit. He was always in the office.
Yeah.
And so like I would just go, I spent so much time with him and stuff. And he kind of saved me just from that aspect of like making sure, like what I talked about a little bit of like needing someone to like kind of keep pushing you in the right direction,
Yeah.
even on days where I came in and I was like, yeah, I don't really feel like it. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, let's just go do this, or let's
Yeah.
just go do this. And so, um, yeah, the year I spent redshirting at Moorehead and working with him and stuff really got me back
Yeah.
to, I mean, without that year, I don't play basketball anymore.
Wow.
And so, um, yeah, I would say that year was probably one of the most pivotal years of my life.
Yeah.
Just from kind of the direction that I was able to go from there.
Yeah, and I mean, what a selfless guy. Obviously, Josh came off a pretty dang good career at NDSU, and a guy that I had as a coach at Northern State, and same thing, whatever, 10 years down the line, where it's just like a guy that gets it. And I think for you, like you said, mentioning just it was something that you needed at that time. Obviously, appreciate that story. You go through that year. Where's your head now? Like, obviously you probably still want to be a pro. You probably still want to hoop. You miss it, I bet, because I think anybody this is kind of a similar story to myself as well. Obviously, it's different, but it's like you're at such a high point, and then it's like, okay, you feel like you're just you're going down, but then it's like you feel like you're, kind of creeping back up. Is that something you kind of felt that after that year, where it's like I can still do this. I still want to do this. Is that kind of something that you had in the back of your head?
Yeah, I was so ready to play. Like
Yeah.
I was so excited to play again. Like I said, I mean, mentally, I was in such a different place
Hmm.
than I had been for like the last, I don't even know, I'd say
Yeah.
24 months. Like,
That's crazy.
I was so excited to play again. It's that almost like even the summer stuff, like, Division 2, it's not the same as Division 1 where you're like up there, I wasn't taking classes and doing whatever. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm home during the summer working out and stuff, but still going up there for like to run camps and
Yeah.
do stuff. But like you get back together, and
Like,
like
yeah.
I was the one that was like, I'm like, no, let's play again. Like we'd play every day, but I'd
Yeah.
be like, let's play again tonight because I
Yeah.
was just like, I'm actually playing, like
Yeah,
I'm
you're
actually
amped. Yeah,
working
for
towards
sure.
something. So.
Yeah.
Very similar to I'm sure what you experienced, like
Yeah.
coming off injury. As soon as
Yeah.
you get cleared, you're like,
You just want to play.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
ready to go.
exactly.
So
No doubt.
that's kind of what I felt like. Like I felt like I was, finally cleared and ready to go, and so I was really excited for my 5th year at Moorhead.
Yeah, and I think I think it shows your true love for the game, going through all that stuff, because I think so many people, even if it's like, people would have gave up, or even if you don't give up, you hold on because maybe it's like your dad wants it for you,
Yeah.
or somebody else wants it for you, but it seemed that it was pretty natural through kind of yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean it's what I love the most. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, aside obviously from my family,
Yeah.
my wife and son,
Yeah.
but it's the thing that I love doing. It's the thing I love talking about. It's the thing I love watching, and that's never changed for me.
Yeah.
I just think that it, over that small stretch of time, looking back, which felt like forever, but during that small stretch of time, it was the thing that hurt me the most
Yeah.
too. And so, um, once you get past that, it's kind of like I felt like reinvigorated almost, where I
Yeah,
was
that's
just
awesome.
like found that love again.
Yeah, and obviously you not only found the love, but you found who you were as a player. You're named to All NSIC second team, NABC Central District second team. You led your team in scoring with 19 points per game, 4.1 assists, and you made 83 threes. No surprise there. Made 113 free throws, probably took 114 of them. No confirmation on that, but I'm gonna assume. Obviously, that 5th year was granted to you by the transfer and all that kind of stuff. Um, was it right away after that you're like, let's go be a pro?
Yeah, and I was pissed after the year because I was like, I mean, I had such a good year,
Yeah.
but just, and this as well as anyone, the way that NSIC works is like everything is handed out based on where you finish.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I don't know that anybody in the country had a better year than I
Yeah.
had. And I think I had our first two like our first two games of the season. We played a tournament down in Missouri. Um, and I think I recorded like the highest like player efficiency ranking ever in a game.
Wow.
And stuff, and it was like the whole year went like that.
Yeah.
Like I just had a really really good year, and then I made like second team all conference,
Yeah.
and I was just like I legitimately thought I was going to be like national player of the year, and I like the awards come out, and I'm like second team all conference.
Yeah, because it's just the way that kind
Because
of
we
just
finished like eighth or something.
yeah,
In
the way the media works and
yeah
at that level is just it's too much to
yeah,
you
and
know.
so like I was mad because I was also looking at it from a standpoint too of like, okay, well if I finish as if I'm an All American, then that helps me to maybe get some NBA workouts or
Yeah.
do like I was looking at it like that. And so like when that stuff happened, I was like, this is gonna hurt.
Yeah,
this is
no
gonna
doubt.
make everything that much more difficult. So
Is that something your mind was at? You said, you mentioned NBA. Is that something like obviously you know you're good enough to play at that level? I think anybody that's watched you in your career knows you're good enough to play at that level. But was that something that was like it's NBA or bust, or was it something where it's like, okay, it might not be the NBA right away?
had I stayed at Iowa, there's no doubt in my mind I would have played in the NBA.
Yeah.
When I left Iowa, I think I think I came to the realization that I wasn't gonna make it right out of college.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was gonna have to be like
Yeah.
there's gonna be some bobbing and weaving in order
Yeah.
to get there. And so um coming out of Moorhead, I think I had a little bit more confidence in
Mm-hmm.
being like, okay, well I might have to go play in the at the time it was the D League.
Yeah. Before the G League was even a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna have to go play there, but like if I go play there, I'll get called up.
Yeah.
And so I think that was more of my mindset. But yeah, I again like to anybody that's gone through transferring down a level,
Mm-hmm.
you're making it so much harder to get to the highest level just because of I mean you can be whoever you are and you can play as good as you possibly can,
Yeah.
but like there's just other stuff that comes into account who you're
Mm-hmm.
playing against.
Yeah.
They're going to judge you based on your competition, and so I think for me it was like once I made that decision, you're kind of almost throwing your hat that,
Yeah.
throwing it in the ring that
Yeah.
you're probably not going to make it right away.
Yeah, I mean it was a kind of similar thing for me too, where it's like I loved Northern State and I loved being there, and
Yeah.
I would have loved to do another year there, but at the same time I was like I kind of accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish at that level, being Player of the Year and being an All American. I was like, okay, now I want to be a pro. I want to play in the NBA. What's my next step? Where do I got to go? And obviously, two knee injuries later, kind of that's a whole nother story. Obviously, if people who listen to the podcast know all that kind of stuff. But I think you're right. It's just you make it so much more difficult on yourself than you even really know in the moment. Where you're like, I'm still hooping. Like, are you guys seeing the product I'm putting out here? Like you said it for yourself. I feel like I'm the best player in the country, but it's like it doesn't show right away. And obviously, for you, it was a different story. Was it right overseas to Finland then right away? So you played for, I don't even know how to say this, but Tapiolan Hunka?
Yep.
Sound right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tell me that change. Obviously, you went through kind of a roller coaster in terms of a college career, different than, your kind of storied picture, but you find yourself in Finland as a 22-year-old kid, and just kind of bring us through that.
I mean, it was awesome. Like you get there, you're a pro. You're getting paid to play basketball. You're living somewhere else, and it was that you're starting all over again with like you're a rookie and you're trying to learn the game. And like I had some vets on my team, like some guys that had played. I think one guy was 32 or 33, and it was like year 11 for him, and then it was another guy that was like year 7 for.
Wow.
And stuff. So having those guys helped a lot. Started off great, and then got hurt and went home.
Yeah.
And so it was again almost like going back into that same mindset and that same hole of like,
wow.
Am I still going to do this? And for people that don't know, like playing overseas is very much like it's like entering corporate America, where it's like you enter in at like entry level,
Yeah.
and let's say you enter a job at entry level and you get fired.
Yeah.
Like
Then it's
it's
like, where the hell am I
yeah,
gonna go?
it's tough. It's tough
Yeah.
to get another job at the
Yeah.
same level. So for me, I got hurt. I think it was game 5 maybe of
Mm-hmm.
the year, which was crazy because we played like 20 preseason games. So like
Wasted your time.
I had played so many games,
Yeah.
but it was like game 5 of like the season. And yeah, I tore my labrum in my shoulder, and
Mm-hmm.
they sent me home. I didn't even get a chance to talk to my agent. Like
Wow.
it was middle of the night back home, and the team was like, "Yeah, we think we're going to send you home because we think you're going to be out for a long time." And I was like, "Okay," because I didn't
Yeah.
know any better, and so I was just like, "Okay, well, I'll just go home then,"
Yeah.
and
Wow.
just hopped on the plane. So yeah, it was
How tough is that mentally? Because obviously, we talked earlier about the adversity that you went through,
mhm,
and then it's like, okay, I broke through.
mhm,
I was, player of the year type of level,
yeah,
and now I'm, starting a professional career. But then it's like it gets taken from you like that, and you
yeah.
don't know what the next step is. Like, how tough was that mentally on you as a young professional basketball player?
I thought it was over. Like
Really?
honestly, I mean, and not in like a dramatic, you know, I didn't go home and sit in the sit on the couch with all the shades drawn
Yeah.
and like what was me. I just was kind of like I'm not going to get another job,
Mm.
and so my agent was trying to find me another one, and a couple days go by, and then it's weeks, and then
Mm.
it's been 2 months, and you're kind of like, okay, well, this is probably over. So
Wow.
for me, I went and got my real estate license, and I was like, okay, well, just on to on to the
On
next
the next
chapter.
shot.
Yeah, so it was a weird time because I was almost like accepting of it, just being
Yeah.
like, oh well,
Do you think
wasn't
that
in the cards.
do you think that kind of that level of acceptance is because you dealt with the adversity in the past
Yeah,
versus this being kind of your first, shot of adversity?
100%.
Yeah.
Like I think at that point you're just like, you know, I've been down this road before.
Yeah.
Like I already know what it is, and so yeah, 100%. Which is why I think I was able to like I got my real estate license like probably record time. Like I think I took all the you have to take some absurd amount of hours.
Yeah.
I did it in like 2 weeks.
Got it done.
Yeah, and like I was just like, all right, next chapter, like
Wow.
next thing. And so, I didn't go through that period of like feeling bad for myself. I was just kind
Yeah.
of like, yeah, I got to move on.
Yeah, I think it's kind of that similar deal to me where after I tore the first one, I told myself is like, okay, if I do the second one, like I'm done. Like
Yeah,
I'm not coming back from this. I'm already half of the athlete that I was before. But then I did the second one. I was like, all right, cool,
yeah,
let's go.
yeah,
And obviously that's the same for you. And your next stop ended up being the Czech Republic,
yeah,
playing for BK Armax something.
yeah. Detchen,
Detcha, there you go.
Detchen.
Still
Yeah,
knows it.
yeah.
Relief. What was kind of like, I don't know, just a weight off your shoulders, not even figuratively the bad shoulder, but obviously you get the chance to play again. Like, where do you go? Forget about physically. Obviously, you probably healed up, and we know you healed up. But where did you go mentally when it's like, okay, I still get to hoop?
I was excited again to get the opportunity. I was like, uh, I worked out all summer and
Yeah.
stuff, and I was in really good shape, and I was ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the opportunity came, and I was just kind of like, I don't know. It was a good team. My agent had placed a guy there who had a ton of success before. Actually, the way I got the job was
Wow.
that guy had gotten hurt,
Okay.
I think, and was not going to go back. And so that GM kind of trusted my agent. Wow.
Wow.
Like, oh, if you have another guy, and he's like, I have
Let's
a guy
take
better.
him.
I have a guy better than him. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I went and I was the only American on
Wow.
my team, and I was actually the only American like within, I don't know, probably 50 miles.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and so it was kind of a unique, like another Moorehead redshirt year type
Yeah.
thing where I got to be
In the
by
Czech Republic this time.
I got to be by myself, and played, and like I don't know, I to this day I'll say that was maybe like I don't know if it was the most enjoyable year, but it was
Yeah.
probably the most pivotal year of just like I learned how to be a pro kind of on my own.
Mm.
Like I didn't have someone like teaching me. I
Yeah.
just kind of figured it out because my team was good. My
Yeah.
coach was good. The league was decent. And so it was just kind of like, all right, well, I got to be better.
Yeah.
And so I kind of figured that out. So
almost kind of like throwing yourself in the fire in a way where it's like, if I don't figure it out,
Yeah.
I've seen what happens.
100%.
I've seen it. I think I was talking to Cam Christie, who just signed with the the Lakers got drafted by the Lakers, and obviously he's got guys like the Clippers. Sorry, he's got guys like Kawhi and James Harden and all those guys that are in his ear. But we were chatting, and he said it's like there's no one's pointing it out for you.
Yeah.
Like no one's drawing you a diagram on how to do it. So you got to show up and you got to figure it out. And I think that's something where that's adversity or injury or obviously you in the Czech Republic getting a chance back at hooping again. It's like you kind of just got to figure it out. And obviously that's something you were able to do, transitioning into Belgium, then into Hungary, and then into Turkey. You just kind of working your way up that corporate ladder, like you said. Is there anything like specifically that you remember about a specific spot, or is it just kind of that grind of working your way up? Obviously, people that are overseas know that Turkey's a pretty good spot in the pro ranks. So
Turkey was the year that I got there, and I finally started to feel like, okay, I'm at an appropriate level.
Yeah,
and
this is where I should be.
Yeah, it had been a while, like honestly, since Iowa, where I was like, okay, now I'm like where I should be.
Like 8-9 years later, or
Yeah,
something like that.
and had I had some good years in China, so it's hard. China and Taiwan, so it's hard for me to be like, oh, it was the best year of my career, but it was the highest level I played at.
Is that your Cup or your?
No, we were just domestically in Turkey,
okay,
but the league was so good.
Really? Yeah.
I mean, there's I don't even know how many EuroLeague teams. There's 3 EuroLeague teams. There's 2 Euro Cup teams.
Wow. It's good competition.
Yeah, I mean the names of the imports were all guys that like I had either played against in college or were NBA guys,
summer league guys, all that kind of stuff.
Played against Bracy Wright, who was one of my favorite players when I was in like high school, like junior high in high school. He was Indiana guy, and then he played for the Wolves and stuff. And so I got to play against him, which I thought was really cool because it was kind of the first guy I played against overseas, where I was like, oh wow,
this is where I should be. And obviously, you feel like you should be at that spot, but you have a career high 35 points in Turkey in 2017, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Just kind of reflect on, I don't know. I think, for me, there was a moment last year. I think it was kind of down the stretch. It was on the Penn State game on the road. I don't even remember what I had, like 12, 14 points. We got a big win on the road. And I just kind of like felt like, hey, I should be here. Like had 4 or 5 blocks, had some big dunks. It was, just a game down the road where it's like, I deserve to be here. Was that 35-point game one of those those deals where it's just like, yeah, this is, I'm that guy kind of deal?
No, because
really?
This game, and anybody that's played overseas knows, this was the game before Christmas, before you get to go home.
Yes.
Nothing matters in the world because you've been over there for about 4 or 5 months.
Want to get home?
Yeah, you get to go home for a few days, like literally.
I've heard some stories, like Jared Bergen's told me some stories where it's like some years he didn't get to go home.
Oh yeah. So if you get to go home and it's like you're literally home for 36, 48 hours.
Wow.
But that probably 2 weeks leading up to that trip home, you don't remember because it's all you're thinking about is going home. But then we played, and I went from the game to the airport.
Wow.
So I was so like, I didn't care what happened in that game, which I mean,
well, it worked out pretty good because you had 35, 6, and 6.
No, dangerous recipe for someone is when they're unconscious, they don't care, and so we played and we won, and I got to jump on the plane right after and go home. So I was there was no like, I can't even attribute anything else to it other than like you just play that game and kind of carefree.
Yeah. Just kind of out there hoping again.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to help me on the timeline of this, but you end up leaving Turkey. Was it straight to the G League after that, or because you end up playing 5 games in the G League, correct?
Yeah.
Or kind of what did that timeline, or explain that for
Turkey was I went to China.
You went to China from Turkey.
Yep.
Okay.
So the G League was actually last year. 2 years ago.
So that was because I remember when we were working out at like Heritage Christian Academy like 4 or 5 years ago, and I remember like the Kings were a spot that you were talking to, if that's right, or maybe the Bulls or something like that. But we'll hit on China first. Obviously, you end up having a pretty sweet career over there. I think a unique experience. A personal friend of mine growing up with, Nuni Omat, is over there right now. Loving his experience. Just talked to him the other day. Different. But something that I think if you kind of get to experience, and Momo's over there too in China and loves it. So kind of what was that experience for you as an American?
China was awesome. I mean, it's playing basketball in China as an American is you're probably never going to get treated better.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so they love basketball over there, and they love American basketball players. I
Yeah.
won't say they love Americans, Sean,
Yeah.
but they
Okay.
love
Yeah.
American
Yeah. Yeah.
basketball
Yeah. Yeah.
players. And it's fun. It's a different style of basketball. It's literally like give you the ball and we'll get out of the way. And
Yeah. Go.
if you pass it to me and I don't have a shot, I'm gonna give it right back to you. And so very very different than European basketball.
Hmm.
And so it's a little liberating when you get over there because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, you mean I can shoot this?
Which
off?
works for you as a player
Yes,
too, where it's
yes,
yeah.
yeah. So it was like the other thing too was like I learned so much in Europe and became a much better basketball player by playing the European style and playing for some really good coaches and learning different countries play different styles of basketball.
Yeah.
And so playing in five countries in Europe, I got five different styles of basketball.
Wow,
and
yeah.
so being able to kind of almost like put all of that on display was fun. It was really fun, and I had a lot of success right away.
Yeah, that's pretty
it.
sweet. And then was it to Taiwan after that?
Yep.
Or okay, yeah. And obviously you had some of those huge games in Taiwan. I remember when I was at Northern, I think it was like 2020, 2021 time. Does that sound about right in Taiwan?
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing some of the numbers you were putting up. Where were you at in your career there? Obviously towards the back end of it. I think we just about to start a family, just about to have your son.
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of know it was coming to an end? Obviously, you, as a pro, you've been through it for now 10 years, and it's like, okay, eventually it has to end at some point. But was that kind of a thought for you, or was it just like, hey, I'm killing right now, like I can keep playing?
I was a little of both, actually. It was a little bit of like, hey, how long am I going to do this for?
Yeah.
But then it was also like, you start making a certain amount of money and you're playing well, and it's kind of like you start getting offered 2 and 3 year deals, and then you start looking at, okay, well, if I just play the rest of this year and sign a 2 year deal, then I'm done after that. And then like, so you're kind of looking at it like that. But yeah, I at that point, like I was playing so well, I felt good. Like it was just one of those things where but then also on the other side, like you have a family at home now and stuff, and so they're taking that into account. So it was a unique time, but it was something that I was like, I'm going to do this for as long as I can, that it makes sense.
Yeah. And obviously, I think, too, when it's a situation that is working, it makes even more sense,
right.
Where you're having success and forget about success, you're probably having a lot of fun doing it because it's something where it's like you said, we've gone through so many different roller coasters, ups and downs, and now it's like, okay, I'm at the tail end and I'm having a lot of fun doing this. Like, why shut something down when I truly do love it? I think there's beauty in that. And I think that's something where I'm kind of in that same boat where it was like, I want to come back for another year of college. I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to be the oldest guy in college basketball. Probably not. But at the same time, like I love it. Like I love it here.
Right.
I have a house now here, and there's so many good things happening that it's like, why shut that down?
Right.
I think it's kind of a similar situation. Before we kind of close on the pro career, that 5 games in the G League. Yeah. Hit me with that.
So that was 2022, 2023.
Yep.
So, Kajo, who you know.
Yes.
Kajo was an assistant coach with the Windy City Bulls, the G League team. And I don't even honestly know how it came up. But it was just kind of like, my wife was like, you're not done. Like, I can tell you're not done.
Yeah.
And kind of like the opportunity just came up. And it was just like, hey, do you want to come down here and play? And I was kind of looking at it like, why not? Like, I'm as good at basketball as I'm ever going to be. I'm in shape. It's close to home. And it's like a very unique opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Especially at the tail end of your career, too. Where it's like, why the hell not?
And I didn't care. I mean, my financial situation was good. And I wasn't worried about the money. And I went down there, and I was down there for about 3 months, 2.5, 3 months. And I would not trade that experience for anything because I was in such a like mentorship role. And just talking to, some of those guys, and some of those guys I still talk to, and the amount of like questions that they would ask me, and like our conversations in the locker room or on the road, where like I would be sitting there and there'd be like 3 guys with their chairs circled in front of me, like asking me questions about playing overseas and about real estate and about investing their money and stuff like that. So it was it was cool, and I think I was there for a reason. Like I don't want to get too far into that stuff, but
The
like,
spirituality of
yeah,
all
but
that
like
stuff.
I feel like I was there for a reason. I feel like it
Yeah.
was where I was supposed to be at the
Yeah.
time and stuff, and so um, played like absolute trash. Like honest, I could not. I think I was like 2 for 15 from
Yeah, I'll
three
have to
on the
look that
season.
up.
I think I was like 10% from three, or it was something insane. Couldn't make a shot. Uh, wasn't really playing that much, but like I was down there with like Dan Oturo was
Yeah,
on my
big
team.
Dan, yeah.
Yeah, I mean Kajo was there.
Mhm.
Um, Again, I wouldn't trade that. 2 months
So
of
cool.
living in a hotel, and my family was coming down every
Yeah.
weekend. So they're coming down, and I don't know, it was just funny because my son was little, but like still like he was just starting to walk and do
Mhm.
stuff, and so
Yeah.
like it was cool to just get to do that at
Yeah.
that age and have it not matter. I
Yeah.
think was the big thing. Like there
Yeah.
was no wasn't
Stress free.
yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to do anything. Like
Yeah. You're not gonna play for the Chicago Bulls on a Thursday night,
right,
probably.
yeah. Like I wasn't chasing a two-way contract
Yeah.
or a 10-day or a
Yeah.
call up. Like I was just kind of there doing it. And
Yeah.
I was like, my son got to come see me play in
Yeah.
person. They surprised me. I don't know, like
Wow.
it's on my Instagram. Some
Yeah.
people have seen the video, but like I had no idea. We played Milwaukee's G League team, and my wife called me and she was like, asked me some random question, and she's like, "Oh, well, can you come get us in the lobby?" And
Oh,
um, so yeah,
so
like
cool.
he got to see the first game of the year, and luckily it was one of the games I made a shot
There you
at.
go.
So, but yeah, no, it was cool. It was a cool experience, and kind of get to see how like the NBA worked.
Mhm.
Like even if you're not a part of it necessarily, you
Yeah.
still get to see kind of what it was like and stuff. So it was kind of a good way to kind of cap off the career, even though I ended up playing after that. But
Yeah.
I thought that was it.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, we'll finish there then. Obviously, I think it's a cool situation for not only you, but your wife and your son and the whole kind of deal to
yeah,
make it. It's like those are experiences and memories that you'll have for a long time. But yeah, like you said, it wasn't the end.
right.
The end happened the next year.
Yeah,
Where was it? You were back to
Taiwan.
Taiwan, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And does that how did that decision come about? And then obviously, how did that decision kind of wrap up?
So I took a head coaching job in Taiwan.
Yeah. Out of nowhere, I
Out
did
of
not
nowhere.
see that coming.
I didn't
Yeah.
see it coming either. Got a message from the GM of a former team or a team I played on, and
Yeah.
asked if I was interested in coaching, and I was kind of like, no. I assumed it was an assistant coaching job
Yeah.
or some like player development or
Yeah.
something. I'm like, I'm not going
Not
back
in
over there.
Taiwan.
Yeah, no chance. Um, didn't respond. He messaged me again the next day and was like, "We want you to be the coach of our team." And again, I was kind of like, "Okay, well, you're talking about like an assistant or something." So I did respond, and he was like, "I was like assistant coach question mark," and he said,
Yeah.
"No, head coach."
Wow.
And I was like, "Okay." So then obviously it starts to get into like, okay, I'm first year head coach. Like, what does this actually
Yeah.
mean and stuff? And my agent started negotiating with them, and it became a very real thing. And so I go over there, and we actually signed Nooney,
Yeah.
and we're in Japan for preseason, and things are going, and we get back from Japan. Nooney's supposed to show up maybe the day after we get back, or 2 days later, and I wake up in the morning and I go on Instagram, and there's all this stuff from like in the media in Taiwan and on like the league's Instagram that the team folded. And I'm like,
What's going on?
We just got back from 10 days in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like nobody said anything to us. So yeah, the team folds, and just a really weird situation. But I'm out there, and teams start contacting me.
Yeah.
Because they're like, "Hey, you're already out here. Do you want to play?" I'm like, "I'm not in playing shape at all."
Could draw a couple X's and O's up though.
Yeah, I was like, "No, I'm retired."
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there kind of thinking like, okay, well this is gonna get figured out with the league.
Yeah.
Like this is whatever. It's a financial thing. Like someone's gonna come either buy the team and whatever will be good.
Yeah.
I had my old coach that I played for the year before in Taiwan hit me up. He's like, "No, you guys are out. Like this is real."
Wow.
And he's like, "Do you want to come play here?" And so I end up signing and playing.
Crazy.
Have like a month to get in shape before the season starts, and played. I don't even know 10 games maybe,
Wow.
and yeah, just it was just over. Like I was so mentally
Yeah.
done with
Well, you get
basketball.
checked out already,
Oh
kind
yeah,
of from it,
oh yeah,
and that's a beast in itself to get
yeah.
yourself back in it.
You get to the point where, to me, like when people are like, when did you know you were done?
Yeah.
And I said that when I started to not want to go to practice,
Yeah.
when I started to be like I'd wake up in the morning and be like, I can't wait till I'm walking back through this door,
Mm-hmm.
like when I'm done for the day. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I played, I don't know, 10 games or however many, and then I came home New Year's Day. So I was home New Year's Day of this year,
Wow.
and you won't see me playing basketball again.
That's it, huh?
That was it.
Who knows though? Actually,
No, that was it.
does that include pro-am too?
Yeah, that's why I didn't play in the pro am this year.
Yeah.
Like I literally was like, I'm done playing, and I'm not saying I'll never play like pro am or men's league or
Yeah.
something, but I was just like, I'm not even gonna like,
Yeah.
I'm not even tying my shoes up
Yeah.
this year. Like
So
I'm
just ready for that break.
yeah, I'm taking a break,
Yeah.
and I don't miss it.
Yeah.
And people are like, but you miss playing though. I'm like, I really don't.
Yeah.
I really don't.
What is there something that you miss about it? Like maybe not even playing, but like is there something that it's like I miss that? Or is it just you just went through it all. It's just like that's it.
Just don't. I don't have any desire to play right
Yeah.
now, and that's. I mean, it's pickup games.
Yeah.
It's one on one. It's I have no desire
Yeah.
to play. So it's weird.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I mean, I
You
really
probably
don't.
never thought that though either, right?
No,
Like
no,
ninth grade to you is like there's no way to get to a point
no,
where it's like I don't want to play
no.
anymore.
And I'm 35. As weird as that is to say, but I'm 35, and I'm like, if you would have told me at 17, 18 that I would have an 11-year pro career and
Yeah.
get to travel the world and make money playing basketball and stuff, like I'd take it. And
Yeah.
so for me, I'm very grateful for the opportunities I had, but I'm also like, I'm satisfied with
Yeah.
the way it turned out.
I think that's a good way to put it too, where it's like
Yeah.
once you're truly satisfied with something, it's like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I did what I wanted to do. I accomplished the things I wanted to accomplish,
Yeah.
and now it's on to next ventures. And obviously, for your next ventures for you, you mentioned you're not putting the shoes back on, but you are lacing them back on for what you're doing
Yeah.
these days. Hoop Habits just
Yeah.
opened it up in Edina, Minnesota, right across from Braemar, right
Yep.
over there in Edina.
Yep.
I know a lot of people that have been in and out of there. Obviously, anybody that knows you knows that you're a guy that loves the game and not only loves the game but thinks the game at an elite level. What has Hoop Habits meant for you, kind of in its early stages, and what are your goals for the future of it?
It's been a really cool way to still be involved.
Yeah.
I never would have imagined it would take off the way it has.
Yeah.
I don't know what my goals are for it, because where we're at, 7 months after we opened,
Yeah.
is something I would have thought would have taken 5 years.
Yeah.
Like
Killing it already.
I don't know.
I'm not surprised.
We, well, I don't know. I mean, we have, obviously we have our training stuff, but now we have our basketball academy, which is a 12-month program that we had an application process for.
Wow.
And
How sweet is that?
pretty extensive.
Yeah.
And then now we have an AU program with boys and girls, and we're playing on the New Balance circuit. And so it's grown so quickly that I haven't really had time to sit down and think like, hey, what's next? Because we're just doing things, which it's been really cool. It's kind of curbed that appetite for competition, because this is it. This is the game.
This is what it is for you now.
Yeah. Right. So no, it's been amazing, and I get to do it at home with my family, which, I mean, to me is so invaluable.
Yeah.
Just because of how much time I spent away. I think.
Yeah, and I mentioned Jared Bergen's name earlier, but he was a guy too where he kind of mentioned the same thing towards the tail end of his career, is like starting a family and having his daughters, and for you having your son around, and it's like it just feels, I think that kind of plays into the okay with being done, because it feels right.
100%.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, it's hard not to wonder like what if and
Yeah.
stuff, but also like I said, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'm so content with how things
Yeah.
ended up that it's easier to talk about now because I'm just like, like again, if you would have told me that this is how it was going to end up,
Yeah.
like I'd take it 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
So
That's sweet. Well, I think your story is so sweet, so cool, so unique, and obviously, it comes full circle. I had Jameson Battle mention. He said he thinks your son is going to be the best thing that's come out of Minnesota basketball history. He said he sent me a text. He's like, stamp this, like screenshot this. Tuck's kid is going to be the best player to come out of Minnesota basketball history. So I think we won't show this to him or let him listen to this, so there isn't too much pressure on him. But I think he's set up pretty well, man.
he is. We just we need him to grow a little
Yeah.
bit, and I think he from a skill and like a talent perspective, maybe he'll get there. We just need him to. It's going to be on the mental side. He's wild. He's a
Yeah.
wild kid, and so no, it's hard not to look at him and just like it's unbelievable the things he's able to do, and this is not by any stretch of my co-signing what James is saying. I'm saying it's just unbelievable of like being a parent and just
Yeah.
we're at the stage right now where he's putting full sentences and thoughts together and
So
just
cool.
that's the part that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
The basketball part, or if he I don't know if he paints or sings or
Yeah.
whatever he ends up doing is going to be amazing to me. So I'm grateful to be his dad more than anything.
That's awesome. Well, Tuck, appreciate you coming on the Double Down podcast. I think you're a guy that obviously done it at a lot of different levels, the highest levels, and a guy that has a extreme, really good perspective of what it takes to do it and fight through the adversities. And I think I'm grateful for you taking your time to come on. We usually wrap up this podcast with kind of just like, is there a message that you would give to 14, 15-year-old Tuck? Is there anything that you think that you would say to yourself in terms of adversity or fighting through injury or whatever it may be, that you would want others to hear?
My big thing is just that there's never a way to predict what's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it's always going to look different than what you think.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just always been like, what if it's better than what you could have imagined?
Yeah.
Like it's there's so many different variables and so many different things that go into your story and kind of where you start and where you finish. And I want people to enjoy the ride because like that's what makes everybody's story special. Is it's not where you end up at. Like doesn't matter if you're the first overall pick in the draft. How'd you get there?
Yeah.
And what was it like, and what did those experiences mean to you, and how did they shape you and mold you and stuff? So, no matter where you're at, no matter where you start at, no matter where you finish at, just enjoy the entire process because like that's the special part, and that's the part that makes everybody unique, and that's the stuff that you'll be able to share with other people. Because like I said, at the end of the day, like we're all hoping. All we can do and all that we really need is health, great relationships with the people you care about. And so like that's what matters, but all the other stuff is kind of ancillary. So
no, I agree. I think that's you hit the nail on the head. That's what the podcast's all about, and we've talked about it 100 times. It's everybody's story is different, whether that's a roller coaster or whether it's a marathon or if it's a sprint. Everybody's got a different kind of journey, and I think you embody that. So I appreciate you coming on. This has been episode 2, season 2. We're kind of teasing with the name, but in total 21st episode. Anthony Tucker, the Double Down Podcast. I appreciate you all for listening.
Thank you for having me.